and go with me. Come and go with me. I ask my sister. Come and go with me. Come and go with me. I ask my sister. Come and go with me. Come and go with me. I'm on my way. Great God, I'm on my way. I ask my brother. Come and go with me. Come and go with me. I ask my brother. Come and go with me. Come and go with me. I ask my brother. Come and go with me. Come and go with me. I'm on my way. Great God, I'm on my way. If they say no, I'll go anyhow. If they say no, I'll go anyhow. If they say no, I'll go anyhow. I'm on my way. Great God, I'm on my way. I'm on my way. I'm on my way. And I won't turn back. I'm on my way. And I won't turn back. I'm on my way. And I won't turn back. I'm on my way. Great God, I'm on my way. I'm on my way. Good morning. Welcome, welcome. You can already see that we have a special guest with us today, and Tracy will be introducing our special guest in a moment. I invite you to take a moment to notice who's around you, and in fact, to say hello, making sure that everyone around you gets welcomed.
We got a full house today. This is so festive and fun. I'm glad you're here. Each Sunday, we remind ourselves that the history of this area continues to live in people's lives and bodies, including our own. With the symbol of these black oak acorns, we remind ourselves that the Nisenan people are still here among us today, resilient beyond genocide and generations of erasure and exclusion from California's history. Let us remember with care and commitment that we gather today on Nisenan land.
We light our chalice this morning, remembering these words from Frederick Douglass. Education means light and liberty. It means the uplifting of the soul of man into the glorious light of truth, the light by which man can be made free. And now, we will sing our children on their way.
I'm gonna
Welcome. Good morning. My name is Tracy Pepper, your worship associate for today's service. Welcome to our Sunday service here at Unitarian Universalist of Community of the Mountains. It is a joy and a privilege to gather with you here and with our Zoomers, to share in the warmth of community and to open our hearts to the spirit of generosity that brings us closer to each other and the world around us. Generosity is a cornerstone of our faith, calling us to live with open hands and open hearts. It is about more than just giving what we have. It's about sharing who we are. It fosters a spirit of kindness and compassion, creating a space where all are welcome and where love and justice can flourish. As we come together today, let us reflect on the many ways we can embody generosity in our lives. Think about the small acts of kindness that can brighten someone's day, the words of encouragement that can lift someone's spirit, and the gestures of support that can make a real difference. Consider also the broader implications of generosity, how we can contribute to creating a more just and equitable world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. We can draw inspiration from the lives of those who have shown us the power of a generous spirit through their actions and words. One such individual is Frederick Douglass, a towering figure in American history whose life was a testament to resilience, courage, and the transformative power of generosity. His journey from enslavement to becoming a leading voice for abolition and human rights is a powerful reminder of the impact one person can have when they live with conviction and compassion. This morning, we are honored, I am thrilled to welcome a special guest, as we've mentioned, who has spent years delving into the life and legacy of Frederick Douglass. His book provides profound insights into Douglass's journey and the enduring impact of his fight for freedom and equality. Please join me in welcoming author and educator Sidney Morrison, who will share his deep understanding of this remarkable figure.
Dear friends, I am honored to be here this morning. Your pastor Kevin invited me, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak. I'm here essentially because I wrote a book about a man, a slave who wrote a book. It changed his life. He became famous, but it forced him to flee his country, and he feared that he might not ever return. But that flight gave him a vision of possibility. He found a land, Great Britain, where he was not despised or discriminated against. His color did not matter there, and slavery had been abolished a decade before. Although his native land did not love him, Frederick Douglass loved America and wanted to return. But he was a fugitive slave, subject to arrest, and returned to his enslaver because slavery in 1846 was still legal and a foundation of the nation's economy. His New English friends, readers of his book, The Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, and listeners to his many speeches raised money to purchase his freedom from his enslaver. And after a price was negotiated and settled, he received the news of his emancipation on Christmas Eve of 1846. The actual document of manumission arrived a few weeks later. Words matter. They can change lives. They can change the world. My Sunday message is based on lines from a speech about America and immigration Frederick Douglass gave on December 7, 1869 in Boston. In that speech, he noted, all great qualities are never found in any one man or any one race. The whole of humanity, like the whole of everything else, is ever greater than a part. Men only know themselves by knowing others, and contact is essential to this knowledge. Before I continue, I want you to participate in an activity. Please bear with me. It is relevant to my theme and my hope for expected outcomes. Once a teacher, always a teacher. So I want you to follow these directions, and I'm going to read some statements, and if they apply to you, I'm asking you to stand and look around to see who stands with you and then sit down.
Or raise hands.
Or raise hands, yes, if you cannot stand. You do not have to participate in this activity if you're not inclined, because no one will know unless you stand or raise your hand that the statement applies to you. Okay, and then after you finish with the stand-up, sit-down, raising hands or lowering your hand, you will be asked to find someone, especially if someone you didn't know, to talk about your stand-up. And if it's shared with someone like yourself, and if you can't remember who stood up with you, just choose anybody to tell your stand-up story, all right? Here we go. If you are, stand up or raise your hand, if you are the oldest child in your family. All right, look around, these are your peeps. The oldest child. Thank you. Sit down. Lower your hand. Stand up if you're the youngest child in your family. All right, very good. Look around, sit down, or lower your hand. Stand up if you are the middle child in your family. All right, there we go. Middle child. Thank you. Stand up if you are an only child. All right. Look around you. All right, very good. You may sit. Stand up if you're an adopted child. All right. Thank you. All right. You may sit. Stand up if you're a parent of an adopted child. One person raised his hand in the back. Two in the back. Thank you. Thank you. You are special, as we all are for all of these. Stand up if you are left-handed. All right. There are a few. Yes. All right. The rest of you are either right-handed or ambidextrous, all right? Okay. Stand up if you like to vacation near the beach. These are your beach people. I live in LA, but I'm not a beach person. Stand up if you like to vacation near or in the mountains. I'm a tree person. Love trees. So I love being in Grass Valley. All right. Thank you. Now, stand up if you like to vacation anywhere. All right. Yeah. Thank you so much, and we'll sit down. Next statement, stand up or raise your hand if you've ever traveled outside the United States of America. Wow. Over the years, this is happening more and more. Thank you so much. Sit down, please. Stand up if you play an instrument, like the piano, or sing solo or with groups. I'm not saying play well or sing well, just that you do. I play the piano. There we go. Okay, thank you. Stand up or raise your hand if you play a sport or exercise regularly. All right. Thank you.
Standing and sitting down,
Yes, yeah. Whatever works. Get your body moving. Very good. Okay. Stand up or raise your hand if you've ever participated in a demonstration, a march, or a protest activity. Child of the 60s. Yes. All right. Thank you so much. Stand up or raise your hand if you were born in another country. All right. We see 2. Okay. Yeah. Stand up. Thank you. Stand up for your parents were born in another country. Okay. Here we are. Okay. Thank you. You may sit down. Stand up if your grandparents were born in another country. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you. Sit down. Stand up if you, or raise your hand if you've ever been hurt by name calling. All right. And the ones who didn't stand are either lucky or name callers. All right. All right. Stand up or raise your hand if you've done or said something you later regretted. All right. I think that's a universal experience. Okay, thank you so much. Stand up or raise your hand if you have a gay friend or relative. Our oldest son, thank you. You may sit down. Thank you. Stand up if you have a friend or relative with a disability, physical, cognitive, or emotional. Okay, look around. Thanks. We're almost done. Stand up if you have a friend or relative living on welfare or some form of government assistance. All right. Thank you. You may sit down. Stand up if you or your family have ever experienced religious persecution or persecution for not being religious. All right. Okay, thank you. Stand up or raise your hand if your family have ever experienced gender or racial discrimination. Thank you. And this is the last one. Stand up if you or your family have ever been affected by drugs, alcohol, or domestic violence. All right, thank you. Now, at this particular point, I'm going to ask you to all rise, or if you can, to turn to your neighbor and find someone who rose with you, or to talk to someone about your stand-up, even if you don't know them, and introduce yourself, but choose one of the stand-ups in which you're going to talk, and then we're going to give you a piano signal when it's time for you to stop. So everyone rises if you can, and find someone to talk to about your stand-up, something that you shared and you want someone to know. Thank you for your cooperation. But you demonstrated the power of story. You demonstrated that when given a chance and you're allowed to tell your story, people will share, and you will have to be stopped by either a signal or something, because unfortunately it's far too rare that we can find spaces where we can tell our story, speak our truth of our own experiences. And so hopefully that you will create spaces, find spaces where you can do what you did today. If we had time, I would have you discuss the impact of the activity, answering these questions. What did you learn? Why is it important to discuss what you learned? Were you surprised by anything? What did you notice or learn about yourself or others? After years of doing this activity with with teachers, with school leaders, with students and parents, I have learned several things. First, you can control the list of the stand-ups, and depending on what you want people to respond to, you choose what the list is. But sometimes you can be surprised that when you have a list and you think, well, maybe that's too controversial. But remember, people don't have to stand. But I was at a very conservative rural community, and I had that question about gay friends or relatives. And at first I thought, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to list. But I said, no, they don't have to stand if they don't want to or they're uncomfortable. And when I read this question, more than almost 3/4 of the room in this rural Hispanic community stood up when they acknowledged they had gay friends and relatives. So do not think that people, when given the chance to acknowledge the truth of their lives, they will not do so. We all have stories, and the need to desire to tell them, as I said, is universal. We are the stories we tell. We really are the very embodiment of those stories in our lives. We are the stories we hear, the stories we repeat, the stories we want to believe, the stories we make up. They define us, our identities are formed by them, we embody those stories. So we also discover, and I hope you did today, that we have similar stories, and that we have much in common despite our differences. And even in a room of people who essentially look alike, they are very different. Do not assume because you look alike that you all believe alike or think alike. And we hunger for a safe space where we can share our stories without judgment, without shame, without blame, without condescension. This is a safe, sacred place. This is a sacred space where this can happen, where this should happen. And because it's a sacred place, we want you to hear one of the most beloved songs of Frederick Douglass, Deep River.
And in fact, to sing, I invite you to rise. Thank you for already helping create that safe space, Sid. Yes. We typically take time each Sunday to stop for a moment and pay attention to what we're carrying in our hearts, who we're carrying in our hearts, the joys, the worries, the concerns, the anxieties. Typically, we might place stones in a bowl of water up here. Today, they're at the entrance, and any time during the service or afterwards, I invite you to take a stone and put it in the bowl of water to honor what you're carrying. For this moment, I would invite you to take a breath and another. And one more as they're easing in. And I would invite you to notice the evidence of your world in this very moment. So I invite you to notice the sounds, the smells, the tastes lingering in your mouth, the feeling of what's touching you, your clothing, the chair, maybe your glasses, maybe someone else. I invite you to notice what you see, whether your eyes are open or closed. What do you see? I invite you to feel where you are in this moment and who you are in this moment and who you're with in this moment. And centered there, notice what and who is in your heart right now. And I invite you in a word or a phrase to say out loud what's most on your heart, most in your heart this morning. And if someone else says something that was on your mind, feel free to say a yes or a or just to move your hand to say yes, me too. Gratitude. Love. Truth. Forgiveness. Community. Family. Surrender. Pain, doubt. Peace. Suffering around the world, I would name Gaza, Sudan, Israel, fires, landslides, also tremendous joys. The words, the prayer of Lara Cowton to invite us into this moment in the way that is appropriate and right for you. Whether for you a God of great love is what anchors your existence, or whether you see yourself at home in an incredible universe. Spirit of compassion, source of life, God of many names. We gather today in gratitude for our many blessings, for being in community, for the tender mercies of our lives. We also ache with grief, concern, anger about the terrible violence in the world and the human capacity to inflict harm on one another. We seek solace in our seeming powerlessness. We hold in our embrace those hiding in shelters and mourning the deaths of loved ones, mourning the tattered fabric of their lives. We pray for the leaders, for those with the power to create peace, that they may recognize the fragile and valuable humanity of those across from them and see how we are all one. Spirit of life, Spirit of mercy, may all who seek comfort and safety find themselves in a place with no fear, no hatred. And may all who suffer in pain or in anger be held in gentle, loving care to ease and heal their wounds. As we seek here to build the beloved community, may we ever be guided by our faith in the capacity of love to meet injustice and in our ability to love beyond belief. May it be so, and amen.
Wisdom traditions throughout the ages have sought peace and justice and encouraged spirituality as a vehicle to manifest peace and justice. In the Christian scriptures, the prophet Isaiah gave us these words of encouragement. You will go in joy and be led forth in peace. The mountains and the hills will burst into song before you, and all the trees of the field will clap their hands. Instead of the thorn bush will grow the pine tree, and instead of briars, the myrtle will grow.
We come here this morning to find comfort, community, to address our needs, our struggles, to be lifted up, to rediscover our better selves, to become more loving, more accepting as human beings. Jesus in the gospel says, love thy neighbor as thyself. Baha'u'llah, the prophet, founder of the Baha'i faith, of which I am a member, said, O son of being, love me that I may love thee. If thou lovest me not, my love can in no wise reach thee. Know this, O servant. This is a call to agency from all the religious scriptures. You must act. You must take a leap of faith. You must trust the capacity to do what is good within yourself and embrace the unknown within yourself and within others. To be loving, to act as a loving person attracts love. You cannot wait for love. You must assume that love is waiting for you and is there to be embraced once you choose to act on that belief. This is not blind faith. This is an act that we're all familiar with because we make decisions who to trust, who to love, even when you don't have full knowledge of those people or of the universe itself, but we love anyway. And so therefore, we have within our capacity to do the right thing and to embrace others who are different from ourselves. Do not wait for them to come to you. You go to them. And if it is true, as in the scriptures of my faith, Blessed is the spot where mention of God hath been made and his praise glorified. Then the whole world is a sacred place. And therefore you can go to any of these sacred places and should be received as a brother or sister. But sometimes even churches are not safe places. And religion is often used to shame, blame, divide, even conquer. Frederick Douglass discovered this early when he heard his masters and the men hired to brutalize him break his spirit, subdue his will, use religion to justify their actions. When he heard ministers justify slavery and discrimination, quoting scripture as they used the whip. After his escape, and he became an anti-slavery lecturer, he mocked especially these ministers by parroting their words. He was a superb mimic and inspired laughter, scorn, and derision. He denounced organized religion's support of slavery so thoroughly in his book, his white supporters urged him to write an appendix explaining his religious views. And he wrote, in 1845, "What I have said respecting and against religion, I mean strictly to apply to the slave-holding religion of this land, and with no possible reference to Christianity proper. For between the Christianity of this land and the Christianity of Christ, I recognize the widest possible difference, so wide that to receive the one as good, pure, and holy is of necessity to reject the other as bad, corrupt, and wicked. To be the friend of one is of necessity to be enemy of the other. I love the pure, peaceable, and impartial Christianity of Christ. I therefore hate the corrupt, slave-holding, women-whipping, cradle-plundering, partial and hypocritical Christianity of this land. Indeed, I can see no reason but the most deceitful one for calling the religion of this land Christianity. I look upon it as the climax of all misnomers, the boldest of all frauds, the grossest of all libels." Ooh, those are some strong words. And for the rest of his life, he continued to denounce the abuses and misuses of religion. And for the rest of his life, he was denounced by white and black ministers. He was religious in his own fashion. He studied the Bible, especially the Old Testament prophets, and could quote passages of the Bible from memory. But in his last book, he wrote 3 autobiographies. The Life and Times of Frederick Douglass, 1881. He ended his 600-page book with a 4-page criticism of the Black community's allegiance to reactionary ministers and to superstition over science and reason. The book did not sell well. But Douglass was a believer and took seriously Jesus' admonition, "Love thy neighbor as thyself." But who is our neighbor? Douglass addressed this question and provided answers in a remarkable speech he gave in 1869, when this nation, and especially California, experienced a wave of xenophobic racism against Chinese immigrants. This region lived this story. Until recently, the story was not told. It was erased from books, even photographs. So even as a student of history at UCLA, and I saw pictures of the ending of the building of the Transcontinental Railroad, there were no Chinese builders of the railroad. Why? Because they were told to not be in the pictures. And they built the railroad in this area and mined the minefields. And Douglass noted this. Already has California assumed a bitterly unfriendly attitude toward the Chinese. Already she has driven them from their altars of justice. Already, she has stamped them as outcasts and handed them over to popular contempt and vulgar jest. Already are they constant victims of cruel harshness and brutal violence. His response to this was a call to know your neighbor, to connect, to understand, to ask questions, to seek them out. He required a shift in perspective, an acceptance of a grander vision of America and humanity, a recognition that love is not just personal, love is communal and finds its highest, grandest expression in justice for all. Love is justice for all, he insisted. He explained, there are such things in the world as human rights. They are eternal, universal, and indestructible. The right of migration, the right which belongs to no particular race, belongs alike to all and all alike. I know of no rights of race superior to the rights of humanity, and when there is supposed conflict between human and national rights, it is safe to go to this side of humanity. He urged America to be a composite nation. He said, we must make the perfect national illustration of unity and dignity of the human family that the world has ever seen. We must make it so that this is a nation of immigrants, a nation that's composite. And he warned, therefore, of the danger of religious uniformity. He did not want America to become a Christian nation. He said, I know of no church, however tolerant, of no priesthood, however enlightened, which could be safely trusted with the tremendous power of which universal conformity would confer. We should welcome all men of every shade of religious opinion as being the best means of checking the arrogance and intolerance which are almost inevitable of general conformity. He sustained and deepened this vision of unity and diversity until the end of his days, until the very end of his days, which is why I ended my novel with an account of his visit to Trinity Chapel in Cambridge, England, and then his climb to the top of the Great Pyramid of Egypt. He always wanted to go to Europe and Africa. He had been to Great Britain, but after the death of his first wife, Anna, of 44 years, he married his white secretary, who was 20 years younger, to the absolute consternation of both families and the entire country, because in 1886, interracial marriage was illegal almost everywhere, but not in the District of Columbia. And so he married secretly. There was a storm of protests, and then he and Helen, his second wife, went to England and then to Egypt. And this is where I would like to end my message for today. It's a metaphor of the challenges we all face, but in order to reach the ultimate vision of unity in diversity, of acceptance of all, we must work for it, just as he had to work climbing that pyramid. And so here is how I described those moments. If church was a place for the giving of thanks, he gave thanks for Julia and for Helen, Attilia, his mother, his grandmother, his sister Eliza, Lucretia and Sophia Old, Anna, Rosetta, Abby Kelly Foster, Elizabeth Stanton, Susan B. Anthony, they were his friends. All the remarkable women whose character, temperaments, principles, and dreams shaped his remarkable life. He had other influences, from Thomas and Hugh Old to William Lloyd Garrison, Wendell Phillips, John Brown, Abraham Lincoln, and others, but the women shaped him most of all and helped him rise in the world. And when that world shifted and his star fell, they were there in their own unique ways to lift him up again. After a long journey through London, Paris, Rome, Florence, Naples, Pompeii, Pisa, Port Said, and Cairo, it was time for Frederick to rise again. He climbed the pinnacle of the Great Pyramid of Gyps in Egypt on February 22, with Helen there at the base encouraging him. From a distance, as the ancient structure shimmered in the muted sunlight of morning, the surface of the pyramid appeared like walls fused together into a solid triangle by a miracle of Egyptian engineering. Frederick knew slaves had dragged individual limestone blocks for miles and hoisted them up one by one over many years until the summit was reached. Nonetheless, the size of the individual stones surprised him. 3 to 4 feet in thickness and height, they were so huge that an ascent seemed impossible. The top seemed to touch the sky. Because the 400-foot climb was a popular tourist destination, there were others already on the way up, inspiring excitement and awe in those who waited their turn. Frederick heard the chatter, doubt, and fear. There were some who decided at the last minute to not make the climb. Young Egyptians, all thin with muscular arms, hoisted men twice their size, but Frederick still worried. At 230 pounds, he knew he would require the assistance of more than one man to lift him. He was sure that nothing they could do would mitigate the indignity of a heavy 6'2" man being pushed and pulled hundreds of feet against and over rough, dusty stones. Frederick didn't have a fear of heights, but he had never been at the summit of anything this high. One misstep could mean death. He hesitated. His wide, skittering eyes betrayed him. Helen touched his arm lightly. "You can do this. I'm sure of it. Don't worry. They won't drop Frederick Douglass. That would be a national embarrassment." "How do they know who I am?" "They know. And to memorialize this moment before you get dirty, let's have a photograph taken for posterity." Here's one. "Proof that we were here in Egypt. Can you believe it? We are here at the base of the Great Pyramid." Arrangements with the photographer were quickly made, and Frederick and Helen stood side to side, holding hands in front of the camera box. After the photograph was taken, Helen whispered, "It's time, Frederick. Tell me what it looks like up there." Frederick sighed. "Here goes." One of the 4 men, speaking excitedly in Arabic, gave instructions in perfect English. 2 would push him up and 2 would pull. Frederick had to lift his right leg and then his left over the edge of each stone to the top of it, and then stay there for a few seconds before repeating the process. He inhaled deeply and tightened his muscles. He could feel the strain throughout his body. He began to sweat. "Ready, sir," said the main guide, smiling. "Ready." Frederick took another deep breath and stepped forward. He looked back at Helen, put the tips of his right fingers to his lips, and kissed his fingers before blowing them away, a gesture he had never done before with anyone. The guide gestured him toward a stone that wasn't as large as most of the others. Apparently, he wanted Frederick's first step to be successful. Remember that. Easy first. "And remember, don't look down," the guide said, "when you go up or when you return." Frederick followed his instructions, lifting his legs, pressing his hands, allowing the men to push and pull with each block. He tried to ignore the strain in his legs and arms, but that was impossible. And now and then he thought, "I can't do this. I can't go on." But Helen's faith in the promise of a spectacular summit view made him press on. At the halfway point, he almost looked down out of curiosity, but he obeyed his instructor and continued, even though he was sure the next step would be his last, that he would admit defeat and turn around for the descent. As if reading his mind, the guide said, "Take your time, sir, take your time." Frederick reached the summit after about an hour. The view of the world below him made the effort worthwhile. He could see the inexplicable Sphinx of the pyramids, the winding Nile in the valley, the vast desert, ancient Memphis and Heliopolis, and in the far distance, the mosque, minarets, and palaces of a great teeming city. Frederick saw the ages, and events that swept over the country and the millions who lived, worked, and died there. He saw Egypt and Europe as one land. The pyramids inextricably linked to the cathedrals of Europe. The Great Pyramid connected to King's Chapel, the pride of rulers and the multitudes who made their power possible. He saw the aspirations of creative artists and the tenacity and gift of laborers, enslaved and free, building monuments to princes and to themselves. He saw truths. From out of Africa came the world. Its people spread far and wide and, reshaped by geography, climate, politics, and religions, they forgot or no longer believed in a shared identity and history. Philosophers, rulers, and citizens touted immutable racial differences and justified conquest in the name of racial and cultural superiority. The view from the Great Pyramid verified that what Frederick had understood since he was a young man. The earth was one world. Everyone was connected by their common humanity. Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey was the convergence of two families, one white and one black, representing the past and the future. He had a responsibility to descend the Great Pyramid as a universal reformer, demanding justice and equality for everyone, black and white, red and brown, men and women, Christian, Hindu, Muslim, Buddhist, and Jew. He could no longer be Frederick Douglass, the representative black man for black people. He was now Frederick Douglass, the representative of all who wanted and needed a better life and future. He would be a champion for everyone with justice for all. Frederick Douglass would agitate with passion, righteous anger, and love until the end. He was ready to go, and he was not afraid to look now, for he knew what waited for him there. Helen, his family, and a future bright with the promise of tomorrow, and a North Star rising again.
Giving reflects our commitment to support one another and our collective generosity that we can create positive change and promote the values we hold dear. As we prepare for our offertory, let us consider the ways in which our gifts can help foster a healthier and more sustainable environment. In that spirit, I am pleased to share that 50% of our offering this month will support Sierra Streams Institute, a local watershed monitoring organization that promotes scientific knowledge and stewardship of Sierra Nevada watersheds through research, restoration, education, and community science. Let our offering be a symbol of our gratitude for the abundance we enjoy and our desire to give back to the earth that sustains us. Together, we can make a difference, nurturing both our community and the environment we cherish. With hearts full of hope and hands extended in generosity, we dedicate this offering to the well-being of our planet and the flourishing of all who call it home. Amen.
So Sid explained earlier that speaking from a church pulpit was not necessarily the most familiar location or necessarily the most comfortable, but what a natural, right, for delivering a message. Yeah. So thank you very, very much for being here. Tracy, thank you for serving as worship associate so beautifully. So Tracy and Gail Johnson-Vaughan actually planned the service, and Gail has been away caring for her beloved, and so couldn't be here. But it was Gail who said, when we knew that Sid was coming to town as part of the book tour, it was Gail who said, maybe you'd want to speak on a Sunday morning. So thank you, Gail. Thanks to our AV team, always in the back, Cypress and Steve, thank you. Thank you very much. Allison, thanks for reading our land acknowledgement. Thanks to Eileen for being our chat host. Thanks to Linda for the really beautiful setting, including the nature of our area. Thank you to Lori and Gwen for being our really heart-centered greeters. To Elizabeth Rose for organizing refreshments once again. And to Linda, Siska, and Cheryl Spalding, who are up with our very youngest members. And to all of you who came today, especially if this is your very first time here and you had to cross a threshold that perhaps wasn't the most comfortable. So thank you very much for being here. So for those who wish, around 12 o'clock today, we do a UU 101, which is an introduction, about an hour or so introduction to Unitarian Universalism in this community. There's a humanism discussion group that meets every month, which will be Wednesday, August 7th, coming up. There's a group of people meeting to say, how are we going to stay anchored between now and the election? Spiritually, emotionally, physically anchored. So Elizabeth Rose initiated this. So there's Finding a Peaceful Balance group meeting for the first time on Thursday, August 8th. And that will be just before the Joys and Sorrows candlelight service that same evening. So stick around to be calm in that space. Building and Grounds Workday next Saturday. Just come and join in. Very easy to do. And the book group meets next Sunday as well. I wonder if Sydney's book is going to show up on that list one of these days. And finally, a women's circle is going to the movies this month. This is a monthly gathering. Please feel free to join in. There's a circle lunch potlucks that are happening again. If those interest you, please sign up for those. And after the service, what we're going to do is for about 15 minutes or so, Sid will be out signing books and have some books available for purchase. And what we'll be doing is rearranging here to create a circle to come back for a Q&A. So about noon, we'll have a Q&A session start here, both for the folks on Zoom as well as in the room. So stick around if you can, and if not, you'll have a chance to see Sydney briefly and to get a book if you choose. As always, there's much more on the website. So to close, I invite us to sing one more song. We're going to sit at the welcome table. As with all this music today, remembering from whence it came, from the experience of having been enslaved. This is the message. So I invite you to take in the empathy you have in your own experience or your own heritage to enter the spirit of this song. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and to sing.
Welcome table.
I'm going to conclude with a few brief words. And those words are one from Thich Nhat Hanh, whose words that are in Reverend Kevin's, you call yourself Reverend? Yes. In his office, and it struck me when I was waiting upstairs trying to get calm. I noticed a poster that said, "The most precious gift we can offer others is our presence." The most precious gift. But I also want to leave with the words of Frederick Douglass. Remember that we are one, that our cause is one, that we must help each other if we would succeed. Connect, know, and love. Thank you.
Taking the spirit of today with us, I invite us to share these good words that we say to each other at the end of every Sunday to remind ourselves that we're not alone and that we can carry what we find here out with us into the week and into the world. Together, let us carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. Join us for refreshments, for books, and for a Q&A. We'll see you next Sunday.